You can judge me. I'm not gonna stop you. You can say I was selfish, weak, reckless, and maybe I was. Maybe I still am. But here's what I need you to understand. People don't just wake up and decide to blow up their whole lives. No one plans to fall into something forbidden, something so intense it rearranges the bones in your body. No one wants to be the villain in their own story. But sometimes, it just happens. Slow, quiet, like a match you didn't know was burning until the flames are licking at your skin. Mine began the day Ethan walked into my life. He wasn't supposed to matter. He wasn't supposed to even notice me. Just a neighbor's son. Just a friendly face. But when you've been invisible for years, when your own husband barely looks you in the eye anymore, when your days blur into an endless loop of chores, laundry, cold dinners, and fake smiles for the kids, someone really seeing you, it can feel like drowning in fresh air. I know how that sounds. I sound like one of those women. The ones who cheat because they're bored or lonely. But it wasn't like that. Or maybe it was. All I know is, I didn't go looking for it. I didn't plan to betray my marriage. But when Ethan looked at me, not past me, not through me, but at me, I felt something wake up inside me that I hadn't felt in years. It was terrifying and intoxicating. Like stepping outside after being locked in a dark room for too long. And once that door was open, I couldn't close it again. But here's the part that still haunts me. Just when I thought I had it all under control, when I had perfected the lies, the excuses, the careful timing, Marcus, my husband, the father of my kids, came home. Early, unexpected. Like fate had been watching and finally decided to strike. And everything, every lie, every hidden touch, every whispered promise in the dark, came crashing down around me. Loud, messy, unforgiving. So yeah, you can judge me. You probably should. But before you do, let me tell you how it really happened. Because behind every mistake, there's a story. And this one? It starts with a broken gate, a smile that lasted too long, and a woman who hadn't been kissed like that in a very, very long time. She exhales slowly. The tension is thick. Her voice lowers, softer now, more intimate. I'm Julia. And this is the part of my life I swore I'd never say out loud. But secrets, they don't stay buried forever. People think being a stay-at-home mom is easy. That it's tea in the mornings, folding laundry while watching TV, baking cookies, and waiting for your husband to come home with stories and kisses. But the truth? It's not easy. It's quiet. And in that quiet, the loneliness screams. The kind of loneliness that doesn't shout, it sinks. It wraps around your chest and pulls you under slowly. So slow, you don't even notice you're drowning until you're gasping for something, anything, that feels alive. Marcus had been deployed for 7 months by then. Middle East again. Long days. Longer nights. He called when he could. Said all the right things. But his voice always felt far away. Like a version of him I couldn't reach anymore. So I kept the house moving. Packed lunches. Did school drop-offs. Picked up Legos. Told bedtime stories. Paid bills. Answered texts like, "We're fine, babe. Just tired." Always tired. But I smiled through it, because that's what wives do, right? We hold it together. That morning, it was raining. Not hard. Just steady enough to make the windows hum. The kind of morning that makes everything feel heavier. I was balancing a laundry basket on my hip when the doorbell rang. I almost didn't answer. I remember thinking, if it's another Amazon package, I swear. But I opened the door, and there he was. Ethan. I recognized him immediately. He was Mr. Dawson's son, our next-door neighbor. I hadn't seen him since he was maybe 19, but the boy I remembered was gone. He was a man now. Tall, broad, t-shirt clinging to his chest from the rain. Dark hair, clean cut, strong jaw. That quiet confidence some men just carry. And when he smiled, I felt it. That flicker. That tiny, dangerous flicker deep in my stomach. He said, "Hey, I'm back for a bit. Helping my dad clean up the yard. He mentioned your gate's been sticking." I remember pausing. I could have said no. Should've. I knew how that sentence might end in some book or movie. But instead, I smiled and said, "Yeah, it's been a pain. Keeps catching on the hinge." And just like that, he stepped into my life. At first, it was innocent. He fixed the gate that afternoon. Didn't even ask for tools, brought his own. And I just stood there in the doorway, arms crossed, watching the way he moved. Precise, calm, focused. It had been so long since I watched a man work like that. So long since anyone asked, "Hey, you okay?" and actually meant it. The next time I saw him, I was unloading groceries in the rain. 2 kids, 5 bags, 1 tired back. And suddenly, there he was, jogging across the lawn, saying, "Here, let me get those." I should have protested. Said I had it. But instead, I just let him. Watched him carry them in like it was nothing. He didn't even flinch when my toddler started crying. He just smiled and said, "Rough day." I laughed. And not a polite laugh, I mean really laughed. The kind that comes out of nowhere and surprises you. It felt like my lungs remembered how to breathe for the first time in weeks. He noticed the book on the kitchen counter. Something I'd been trying to read between naps and dishes. He said, "That's a good one." The ending messed me up. I blinked. "Wait, you read?" He shrugged. "Only when I can't sleep." Which is often. And then he looked at me. Not like a kid looking at someone's mom, but like a man who saw something in me I'd forgotten was still there. The next few days, he kept showing up. To help his dad. To check on the gate. To borrow something. To return it. And every time, we talked just a little longer. Not about big things. Just stuff. Music. Books. Movies. The kind of small talk that somehow feels like a secret. I'd catch myself waiting for his knock, listening for the creak of his boots on the front porch. And every time he left, I'd feel empty, like the silence after a song you didn't want to end. One afternoon, I offered him lemonade. We sat on the porch steps. The sun was setting. My kids were playing in the yard. And we just talked. He told me about a girl who broke his heart years ago. I told him about Marcus, about the distance. He didn't say much, just nodded, listening. But I could feel it, that pull, that dangerous thread slowly tying me to him. Then I made some dumb joke, I don't even remember what it was, and he laughed. Really laughed, like his whole chest shook. And the sound of it. God. It was like someone had lit a candle in the dark. That night, when I climbed into bed alone, I couldn't stop replaying that laugh. Over and over. Like a song stuck in my head. And that's when I knew. Something had shifted. Something I couldn't unfeel. Something that scared the hell out of me. Because in that laugh, I realized just how numb I had become. And how dangerous it is to finally feel alive again. Ethan started coming by more often. At first, it was practical. The yard, the leaky pipe under the sink, a loose shutter from the last storm. Nothing big, nothing suspicious. But slowly, that shifted. He started showing up when he didn't need to. Just checking in. Thought you might need a hand. Brought you this. My mom used to make them. Banana muffins, warm in a brown paper bag. And stupid me, I smiled like it was the sweetest thing anyone had ever done. We'd talk while the kids were at school. Always on the porch. Always in daylight. Always with just enough space between us. Coffee. Conversations. Laughter. I told myself it was harmless. Just a neighbor being kind. Just me being friendly. But every time he left, the house felt quieter. Every time I heard his voice, something in me stirred. Not in a teenage crush kind of way, but something deeper. Older. Hungrier. I remember one morning, I was wearing this old sweatshirt Marcus had left behind. It was faded, oversized, sleeves pushed up to my elbows. Ethan looked at me and said, "You always wear your sadness in layers, don't you?" I froze. He didn't say it cruelly. He said it like he knew. Like he could see something in me I'd worked so hard to hide. I laughed it off. Changed the subject. But that line, it stuck. Like a whisper behind my ribs. We never touched. Not then. But the space between us started to change. One afternoon, a storm rolled in, thick, slow-moving clouds turning the sky to bruised gray. The kids were at a play date. He was fixing a loose board on the porch swing. I came out with 2 mugs of coffee. We sat side by side, watching the rain come down in sheets. It was beautiful, actually. The kind of rain that makes the world feel like it's pressing pause. No talking, just the sound of water hitting the tin roof and our breathing. I remember the warmth of the mug in my hands, the ache in my chest, and the nearness of him, not touching, but so close. There was something about storms. They always made me feel like anything could happen. Like the rules didn't apply. I turned to say something, I don't even know what, and our hands brushed. Reaching for the same mug. Just a brush. Barely anything. But I felt it in my bones. That jolt. That heat. My breath caught. And in a flash, I pulled my hand back like I'd been burned. Spilled coffee on my knee. Laughed too hard. Said something dumb like, "Guess I need more caffeine." He didn't laugh. He just watched me. Like he knew. And God help me, I wanted him to know. I wanted him to see me. Not as someone's wife. Or someone's mom. But as a woman. A woman who had needs. Who was aching to be seen, heard, wanted. That night, in bed alone, I stared at the ceiling. The rain had passed, but the storm was still inside me. I kept hearing his voice. Kept seeing the look in his eyes when our hands touched. And all I could think was, I'm a wife. I'm a mother. What the hell am I doing? I hadn't cheated. Not yet. But I'd crossed a line in my heart. And once you do that, the rest comes faster than you think. There's this strange kind of grief that comes with temptation. It's not loud. It's quiet. Slow. Like watching your own reflection change in the mirror and realizing you're not who you used to be. And yet, I didn't stop him from coming back. Didn't block the door. Didn't say, "You shouldn't be here." Because the truth is, I wanted him there. Not for his body. Not yet. But for the way he made me feel. Alive. Not invisible. Not background noise in someone else's life. I started wearing mascara again. Just a little. Started brushing my hair before he came. Started humming when I cleaned the kitchen without even realizing it. Tiny things. Things that made me feel like me again. Like the version of Julia I hadn't seen in years. The dangerous thing wasn't that he was young. Or handsome. Or close. The dangerous thing was that he was kind. And in all the months Marcus had been gone, I'd forgotten what kindness could do to a starving soul. I wasn't in love. Not yet. But I was hungry. And Ethan. He smelled like something warm out of the oven. And I was already halfway to the table. It was one of those nights that felt like a warning. The rain didn't just fall, it pounded. The kind of storm that makes your windows shiver, your bones ache, and your nerves hum. The kids were at a sleepover just down the street. Popcorn, pillow forts, Disney movies totally safe. And me? I had the whole house to myself. It should have felt like a break. But it didn't. It felt still. Too still. Like the quiet before something breaks. I was in the kitchen, barefoot, rummaging through drawers for matches when everything went black. Total darkness. The lights flickered once, then nothing. I froze. Storms always messed with the fuse box, and Marcus had always been the one to fix it. I hated that I didn't even know where it was. I stood there, heart racing, listening to the wind howl through the trees, the occasional low groan of the house settling in its own old bones. And then, knock, knock, knock. My stomach flipped. I opened the door, and there he was. Ethan. Soaked to the skin. Hair plastered to his forehead. T-shirt clinging to every ridge of his chest. breathless, eyes wide. Saw your lights go out. Thought you might need help. I should have said no. Should have told him I was fine. Should have shut the door. But I didn't. I just stepped back and let him in. The air felt heavy, not just from the storm, but from everything that had been building between us. He went straight to the fuse box. I lit a few candles. The glow cast long shadows across the kitchen, flickering, golden, too intimate. He got the power working for a second. It fizzled, sparked, then went black again. I laughed nervously and said something about this old house needing a miracle. He grinned and pulled a dish towel from the oven handle to dry his arms. And then I dropped a glass. I don't even know how. My hand just gave way. It slipped from my fingers and hit the tile like an explosion. I jumped. Glass shards skittered across the floor like tiny daggers. Damn, I whispered, crouching down. The floor was cold against my knees. I reached out without thinking, hands shaky, searching for the biggest pieces. And, suddenly, his hand wrapped around mine. Firm, warm, steady. His voice, low, but certain, cut through the storm like a thread pulled tight. You don't have to pretend anymore. I looked up, and it was like the air disappeared. There was no sound, no rain, no flicker of candlelight. Just his eyes. On mine. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't teasing. He was seeing me. The raw, unguarded me. Not the mom. Not the wife. Not the woman who smiled at neighbors and packed lunches and folded laundry in silence. Just me. I couldn't breathe. My throat tightened. My eyes stung. My hands trembled in his. And then, I cracked. Not with a kiss. Not with anything you could point to and say, that's when it happened. But inside, something broke. All the years I spent being strong. All the nights I cried quietly so the kids wouldn't hear. All the empty I'd carried. It surged forward like a flood. I pulled my hand back, fast. Stood up too quickly. Mumbled something, I don't even remember what. My voice was shaking. I was shaking. I backed away. He didn't follow. Didn't touch me. He just stood there, still crouched on the kitchen floor, watching me like I was unraveling right in front of him. And I was. I turned. Walked down the hall. Tried to make it to my room with dignity, but my legs were jelly. My breath came in short bursts. My heart. God, my heart was hammering. I shut the bedroom door behind me, pressed my back against it, slid to the floor, hands in my hair, eyes wide, mouth open, trying to remember how to breathe. And I whispered, "What have I done?" Because I knew, even without a kiss, even without his arms around me, I had crossed a line. And once you do that, there's no walking it back. That night, I lay in bed with the covers pulled up to my chin. Not sleeping, not crying, just lying there, listening to the storm fade into silence, wondering, what comes next? Because something had shifted, and nothing was ever going to feel the same again. The next time we were alone, I didn't run. There was no thunderstorm, no shattered glass, no trembling candles casting secrets onto the walls. It was a Tuesday. Ordinary, forgettable, like most of my days. But that morning, something in me was different. Like a string had snapped somewhere deep inside, and now nothing was holding me back. I was folding laundry when he knocked. Same soft rhythm. Same quiet voice. Need a hand with the fence? I said yes before I could give myself the space to lie. We didn't talk much that day. The air between us did all the speaking. Thick. Charged. Like the moment before lightning kisses the ground. I brought him lemonade. It was hot. Humid. I stood next to him while he wiped sweat from his forehead, and I handed him the glass. Our fingers brushed. That tiny touch. God. It felt like fire licking across my skin. He looked at me. Not with lust. Not even with longing. But with recognition. Like he already knew what we were about to do. And had been waiting for me to catch up. We didn't plan it. We didn't even speak it aloud. But when he followed me inside, neither of us paused. I shut the door behind us. He stood in the living room, still catching his breath from the heat. I walked past him, barely grazing his shoulder, and said, "You can wash up in the guest bathroom." He didn't move. I turned back, and he was staring at me. I didn't feel nervous or ashamed. I felt seen, wanted, alive. He stepped toward me, slow, deliberate, and when he touched my face, when his hand cradled my jaw like it was something delicate, worthy, I didn't flinch. I leaned in. The first time we crossed that line, it was gentle, not rushed, not reckless. It was like slipping into warm water after years of cold. The kind of warmth that makes you ache, not from pain, but from the sudden shock of being held. He kissed me like I mattered. Like I was more than the woman who made dinner and swept floors and waited for calls that never came. He held me like he knew every bruise my heart carried. And I let him. Every second of it was wrong, but none of it felt that way. After that day, everything changed. We didn't talk about it. There was no "what are we doing?" No dramatic declarations. Just more moments. Moments we made time for. Moments we stole. He'd swing by to drop off tools, linger too long in the doorway. I'd bake extra muffins I didn't need, just to have an excuse to bring them next door. We texted. Not flirty, at first. Just safe things, updates about the yard, the weather, a funny thing someone said at the store. But underneath it all was that slow burn, that ache, the kind of hunger that doesn't just live in your body, it builds in your bones. Some nights, after the kids had gone to bed and the house was still, I'd sit on the couch with the TV playing some show I wasn't watching, and I'd text him, "Awake." And a minute later, always, he'd come by, quiet, careful, never staying long, never doing more than what I told myself we had to do. But those moments, they fed me in a way I hadn't realized I'd been starving. He'd brush a strand of hair behind my ear, hold my hand like it was something sacred, whispered that I was beautiful, even when I looked exhausted in sweatpants, mascara smudged from the day. And I started lying, not just to Marcus, not just to the neighbors or my kids or the world around me, but to myself. I told myself it was temporary. A phase. A distraction until Marcus came home. I'll stop once he's back. This is just loneliness playing tricks. But the truth? I didn't want it to stop. Because I wasn't just addicted to him. I was addicted to how I felt with him. Like I was worth looking at. Like I wasn't invisible anymore. And guilt. It came. Sharp. Sudden. Cruel. It showed up when I was brushing my daughter's hair or folding Marcus's old t-shirts. It whispered in the back of my mind, "You're a mother. A wife. What are you doing?" But pleasure always came next. And it was louder. Every time I was with Ethan, it felt right. And every time we weren't, the silence would return. And the guilt would claw at me like teeth in the dark. I told myself stories. Marcus left first. Ethan makes me feel human. No one's getting hurt. But I knew, deep down, it couldn't last. Because no lie can hide forever. And all it would take was one unexpected moment. One wrong turn. One open door. For my whole world to come undone. Everything changed the moment my phone rang. I was folding towels, half listening to the kids argue over cereal downstairs. I answered casually. And Marcus said, "I'm coming home early. 3 weeks early." Just like that. No warning. No buffer. And I swear, the breath left my body. I smiled through the call. Told him how happy we'd all be. Hung up. And just stood there. Frozen. My hands were still damp from laundry water. My heart pounding like it wanted out of my chest. I stared at the folded towels for so long they started to blur. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the edge of the bed, in the dark, gripping my phone so tightly my fingers ached. I texted Ethan, "We need to talk." He showed up the next afternoon. God, The way he looked at me when I opened the door. Like I was still his. Like we were still us. And I wanted to fall into his arms and pretend none of it was happening. But I didn't. I told him Marcus was coming back. Told him we had to stop. That this, us, couldn't continue. His face changed. Not anger. Not immediately. Just hurt. Deep. Visible. Real. So, that's it? He asked. You just flipped the switch off like it never meant anything? I shook my head, fighting the lump rising in my throat. Of course it meant something, I whispered. But it can't. It can't go on. And then he said it. Quiet. Unblinking. I love you, Julia. I nearly collapsed under the weight of those words. Because I knew, somewhere inside me, some selfish, aching part, that I loved him too. But love wasn't a luxury I could afford. The next few days were chaos. Cleaning, cooking, rearranging furniture to make everything look a little more together. I pulled out Marcus's favorite mug, made his favorite meals, practiced smiling in the mirror like I wasn't breaking. And when he walked through that door, duffel bag slung over his shoulder, boots still dusty from the base, I ran into his arms, and for a moment, I let myself forget. Forget Ethan. Forget the guilt. Forget that I was living in a house built on secrets. Marcus looked tired. Older. But happy to be home. He kissed me. Held me. Said he missed us. And all I could do was smile, nod, play the role I was expected to play. But things had changed. I wasn't the same woman who kissed him goodbye months ago. I wasn't the same woman who spent nights crying in the laundry room, trying to hold everything together. I had tasted something different now. And pretending became a second job. The kids were thrilled. We had movie nights again. Marcus grilled in the backyard while I brought out lemonade and tried not to flinch when his hand brushed mine. But even then, the cracks were showing. My daughter, only 10, looked up at me one afternoon and said, "Why are you always smiling at your phone now, Mommy?" And just like that, I couldn't breathe. I stuttered out some excuse about a funny meme a friend sent. She nodded and ran off. But I stood frozen by the kitchen sink, hand trembling, screen face down. Then there were the neighbors. Mrs. Delaney across the street, always the nosy type, started waving slower. Her smiles felt tighter. Like she knew something. Like she'd seen Ethan's car parked out front one too many times. And Ethan. God. Ethan. He didn't let go. He started texting again. At first, gentle. Hope you're okay. Thinking about you. But soon, it turned into, I miss you. Can we just talk? I can't stop thinking about you. And then, tell me you didn't feel it too. I ignored him. For days. But the silence was louder than the messages. Then came the first unannounced visit. Marcus was in the garage. I was folding laundry again, like some cursed loop I couldn't escape. The doorbell rang. It was Ethan. Standing there like nothing had changed, like the world wasn't crumbling around us. I stepped outside, heart slamming against my ribs. What are you doing here? I hissed. He looked past me, toward the garage, and his jaw tightened. I needed to see you. You won't answer me. Because I can't, Ethan. His eyes darkened. Not with rage, but with something even scarier. Desperation. I was real, Julia. We were real. I didn't respond. I couldn't. I just turned around and shut the door. And cried silently on the other side. After that, it got worse. Texts came late at night. Once, Marcus saw my phone light up and asked who it was. I lied. Said it was a group chat from the PDA. He didn't believe me. I saw it in the way he looked at me afterward. Longer. Quieter. The way husbands look when they feel something but haven't yet found the evidence. Ethan texted again. And again. And again. Once, he left a note on my windshield while I was at the grocery store. I was unraveling. Bit by bit. Caught in a web of lies that I spun with trembling hands. And every time I looked at Marcus, I felt like I was standing at the edge of a cliff, waiting for the wind to shove me over. Because secrets like mine? They don't stay buried forever. And deep down, I think I knew. It was only a matter of time before everything came crashing down. It was a quiet afternoon, the kind where the house feels too still, like it's holding its breath. I was folding laundry in the bedroom when Marcus came in, holding something in his hand. A shirt. Not just any shirt. Ethan's shirt. He held it up like a weapon. "Whose is this?" he asked, voice cold but shaking. My heart stopped. I could feel the blood drain from my face. I had no answer. No excuse. No way to explain how it got there, or why it smelled like the last night I spent tangled in Ethan's arms. I opened my mouth, but no words came. And then, just like a cruel joke, Ethan appeared at the end of the driveway. Soaked from a sudden rainstorm, unaware of the storm inside my house. Marcus's eyes followed mine, and then he turned to face Ethan. And in that moment, everything shattered. Marcus roared. "Are you kidding me?" The sound echoed through the halls. The kids heard. My daughter's soft footsteps approached the doorway. My son's confused eyes wide in the hallway. Ethan said nothing. His face was pale, defeated. Marcus didn't wait for an explanation. He told Ethan to leave. Now, Ethan walked away slowly, the weight of what he'd done sinking in with every step. I collapsed onto the floor, the sobs I'd been holding back finally breaking free. My body shook with the pain of 1,000 regrets. Because in that moment, I knew I hadn't just broken a promise. I'd broken something inside myself. Something I feared I might never mend. Marcus moved out a week after that day. Packed his bags in silence, like he was already gone long before he left. The house felt emptier than ever. The kids, they stayed quiet around me. Like they were scared to break the fragile silence between us. Ethan stopped calling. No messages. No texts. Just a cold, heavy absence. And me? I was alone. Really alone this time. No distractions. No excuses. No pretending. The kind of alone that forces you to face everything you've been running from. I started therapy. Not because I wanted to fix the past, that part felt too broken, but because I needed to understand. Why had I let it happen? Why did I need to be seen so badly that I let myself get lost in someone else? I wrote in a journal, messy, desperate notes scribbled late at night. "I'm scared I don't know who I am anymore," I wrote once. I took long walks in the early morning, the air sharp and cold against my skin. Those quiet moments outside helped me listen to myself. Really listen. I realized the affair wasn't just about Ethan. It was about a void inside me, a loneliness so deep it felt like a wound. A wound I tried to fill with affection, attention, and forbidden moments. Healing didn't come in a rush. It came slowly, quietly. Piece by piece, I began finding myself again. Not Julia, the wife. Not Julia, the mother. Just Julia. A woman trying to reclaim her own story. It was years later. I was at the grocery store, aisle 4, to be exact, reaching for a box of pasta. That's when I saw him. Ethan. Older. Maybe a little softer around the edges. But those same eyes, the ones that saw me when no one else did. He saw me too. We didn't speak. No words passed between us. Just a small, knowing smile. Like we were sharing a secret that didn't need to be spoken aloud. Then, without another glance, he turned and walked away. And in that moment, standing there between the canned tomatoes and the pasta sauce, I realized something. Some stories don't end with a kiss. Some don't end with forgiveness or a happy ever after. They end with a quiet understanding and a promise to never forget. To remember the parts of ourselves we lost and the parts we found again. Have you ever loved someone you weren't supposed to? Felt that pull, dangerous and beautiful all at once? Would you risk everything you have for just a chance at happiness, even if it meant losing everything else? Life isn't black and white. It's messy, complicated. And sometimes, it's the shadows, the places we try to hide that show us who we really are. I'm not asking for your judgment, just your understanding. Because behind every secret, every choice, there's a story. A human heart trying to find its way. So tell me, what would you have done if you were in my shoes? Would you have stayed? Would you have walked away? Or taken a chance like I did? Subscribe to Cheating Confession Diary for more stories that go where others won't. Stories raw, real, and unfiltered. Because sometimes, the hardest stories to tell are the ones that need to be heard the most.